Hello, I'm Sticker, and I'll be playing Coda Massaquoi, the Scion of Bastet.
Hello, I'm Damien Gerard, and I'll be playing Kris Strom, the Scion of Artemis.
Hello, I'm Gary, and I'll be playing Oliver Bright, the Scion of Ogma.
Hello, I'm Cyan, and I'm playing Sarah Baxter, the Scion of Vidar.
Hello, I'm V, and I'll be playing Artemis.
Hello, I'm Legacy, and I'll be playing Bastet.
Hello, I'm Dyvir, and I'll be playing Ogma.
I am JDtheST, and I will be playing Vidar Odinson, Norse god of vengeance.
I am Alereg. I'll be playing Dolgrom Regenson, the dwarf.
Hello, I am good old Heretic. I will be playing Stefan Vargr.
And I'm Bloodied Porcelain. I'll be your storyteller this evening. Good evening, players. It's lovely to see you again. I hope you are looking forward to tonight. When last we left off, you all had arrived at Damon's weed farm, seeking shelter from the wolves that had been unleashed after, well, a meeting with Stefan and his lieutenant, Gwen Chambers, had a mixed outcome. Stefan agreed to give it a shot that perhaps he can earn a stay of execution and perhaps even convince the gods not to pursue future Scions of Loki quite as hard as they have in the past, while Gwen went rather hard in the opposite direction and chose to vent her displeasure by immediately sending wolves after multiple groups of Scions. Coda, while all of that was happening, you were with Net. You had woken up in the morning and Net was gone. And when you called Kareem, he had informed you that Net had left in something of a huff, was emotional and unsure how to... He wasn't sure how to calm her down or what her state was going to be, but he gave you some general directions on where to go to find her. And you pursued her in an attempt to win her over. It took some time, and while you were out and about running around, you were attacked by Fenris wolves. And it turns out when you called your friends that was a little bit their fault. You got your first chance to drive, kind of. Net had her foot on the gas, but you were steering while she was hanging out of her car, firing off her lightning-infused shotguns at the wolves who were chasing you. Eventually, however, the two of you managed to make it back to the farm, where you spent the night curled up, you smoking weed, her puffing on her vape. And everybody sort of got the chance to calm down and prepare after finding out that you were all expected to report immediately in the morning to Anvil to attend a summit of the gods that was proposed and put together by Ogma, the Morrigan, and Vidar on your behalf. They are there to they will be there to hear out your proposal. So, when you all wake up in the morning, you all get the benefits I have already told you about, assuming that you spent any time with a nymph at all. If not, you don't get the benefits, and I'm sad for you. The moving on, because we don't have a ton of time, and we do have a lot to get to tonight, you all pile into a car that is loaned to you by Damon. It is bigger than the car that you have been in so far, so it has a little bit more room for everybody to wiggle around. It's essentially a van, like a conversion van kind of deal. So there's more leg room, there's more places to sit. You're piled up with food and drinks by the dryads. You are wished all the luck that they can possibly hope for you, and you are sent on your way first thing in the morning. Is there anything you all would like to talk about during the drive, or shall we assume that you stop for the night when you need to stop for the night and continue on, or are you going to drive straight through? What's the deal?
We have enough people that we could just swap over driving and continue on straight through, I think.
You absolutely could. Is that what you all would like to do, or would you like to take your time so that you have a little bit more time to prepare and potentially give Oliver time to rebuild some of that lost willpower, because he definitely had to spend every bit of it to get through just a night without seeing Gwen's face everywhere he turned.
Oh. I'm happy to stop if it means helping Oliver.
Yeah. Taking your time. It's probably a good idea for prep work, too.
Okay. You know that you've basically been given 2-3 days max. So you are able to stop and keep your options open to do some preparing to help. I'm sure that Sarah and Stefan are spending a lot of time with Stefan getting like the lawyer getting ready to go into court preparation talks.
Yeah.
Oliver, you are able to recover some of that spent willpower. I will say that given that you are probably being surrounded with all of the love and support that your friends can muster, and you have plenty of time to listen to many, many audiobooks. For each day, so 3 total, I will give you... No, not 3 total. Yeah, for each day, I'll give you 1 willpower back.
Okay. I will say that on the first day, no audiobooks are suggested. He's just not feeling it.
Okay.
But
anything getting suggested later?
There might be suggestions later.
Coda will definitely put the murder mystery audiobook back on if he doesn't.
First day, you guys get to listen to the murder mystery podcast that you started the other day. Oliver, are you suggesting anything on the further days?
Yes. Assuming we stop for the night somewhere, and during that time I would also like to specify that I spend some time to myself to just sort of get some research done before we head into things, while Stefan and Sarah work out sort of court thing, as you mentioned. I'll be doing that. But by the second day, I'll kind of think to myself for a second, how about we listen to a farewell to arms?
Sure.
I think everybody's just happy to see Oliver getting back to his old self. So, all right. Second day, you listen to Oliver's audiobook, and I imagine on the third day is when you continue to listen to it. I'm not entirely sure how long the audiobook version of that is, so you might finish it, you might not.
I presume fairly long.
All right. You all eventually reach Maine. Use every bit of the time that you think you safely can without getting yourselves into trouble by being late. When you reach the pass to get to Anvil, you all begin to take the long winding road that was hidden by that odd kind of shimmering spell space. You're still about 5 minutes outside of the town when a group of at least 15 dwarves are there and blocking your path, forcing you to stop. They are all wearing black armor. It covers their bodies. They are wearing helmets so that their faces are hard to see, and you can't really make out how they might be thinking or feeling at the time. They are armed with tools of their trade, axes, hammers, picks, once used to create great works, have now been turned toward darker purposes, it would seem, based on the way that they are holding them. A few among them are even carrying crossbows under heavy tension and automatic rifles on slings. And one has a shotgun at the ready that is leveled on your car.
Oh, good. A welcoming party. And Sarah will stop the car.
Well, shit. On what they want.
Is anybody going to get out of the car?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll step out.
As you all begin to climb out of the car, out of that troop steps another warrior who is similarly armored, though his armor is a little bit more ornate, a little bit more detailed. But the helmet has an open face, and you recognize him as your old friend Dolgrom. Last time you saw him, he was an overworked mayor and artisan, but now he looks like a warrior. He's carrying a maul that looks very heavy, and despite his smaller than your stature, you just instinctively know that if he wanted to turn your car to scrap, he could do it.
You have returned. Not how I hoped, but you have come back nonetheless. You can leave the car here. We will escort you and the prisoner into town.
Nice to see you again, Dolgrom.
It's good to see you all safe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go.
As you all climb out of the car, you are immediately surrounded by these dwarves who form a kind of loose square formation, and you are led into the town. As you pass through the forest, you see what were once outcroppings of rock and other natural formations, blockades, have been fortified, and strong points have been set up. There are siege engines of old and modern machine guns with larger flak guns equipped on these points. Runes and hieroglyphs are carved into the barrels and into each structure. Once you reach the town limits themselves, the sound of craftsmen fills that silence that kind of pressed in on you as you were walking. And the town looks deserted, like it usually does, but you can feel that faint rumble under your feet. You can hear the sound of work. That even now, in this moment where everybody seems to be on high alert and they are seemingly prepared for the worst with the enemy in their midst, the dwarves are still toiling away. They're still doing their job. There are a number of cars and other types of vehicles here. You see what looks like an old Egyptian chariot pulled off to one side. You see a sleek black Cadillac pulled over in front of a different building that you've never been inside of before. There are obviously people here. They're just not anyone outside. Dolgrom will lead you all in to the not quite the main hall, but like a side building off to the side, where there is a collective of divine beings already in attendance. You can see Vidar and Artemis and Ogma and Bastet already convened in one room in this slightly smaller building. And there is a sense of tension in the air that they do not seem upset with each other, more expectant.
Is this another intervention?
I sure hope not.
Vidar, why don't you tell us how you are presenting yourself today?
Vidar is dressed in an extremely expensive-looking three-piece suit with an
Continue.
black coat, black pants, silver vest, with a white shirt and open collar. And yet, he is still wearing those nasty, gnarly boots. And he is smoking like a chimney. You can tell from the full ashtray on the table he has been here waiting for quite some time.
Artemis, how have you chosen to present yourself today?
Today is a very important day. This meeting is obviously incredibly important. So I, like Vidar, have chosen to take this just as seriously as it needs to be taken. My hair is slicked back and pulled into a very high pony. I'm wearing a ruby red peplum suit jacket with a black pencil skirt that stops just above my knees. And then I have a pair of sheer backseam pantyhose and black stilettos with a very, we'll call it an iconic red sole.
Love that. Ogma.
Ogma is dressed in scholar's robes in the United Kingdom tradition of like having the graduation robes over top of like a suit or at least a formal attire there. So he's kind of wearing that normal graduation gown that professors tend to wear at the ceremony, but or for formal occasions. So he is wearing that, and otherwise is taking on an appearance that is typical for him.
Excellent. Bastet.
And Bastet is in a one-piece all black jumper suit with a very bright blue kind of suit jacket over it. The jumper is split by a gold belt, and she wears her rings. Her hair is, though still in the braids, tied back using a big scrunchie to kind of keep the hair out of her face. She wears no shocking jewelry today, but a small necklace that Coda would recognize as looking similar as the one that Bastet gave to her when they first met.
Excellent. Have any of our Scions decided to dress up?
No,
Nah.
we've been traveling.
Also, Coda doesn't care for that. She's like, I got my bat. Well, Kopesh bat. I got my cat, and I got my necklace. That's all I need.
I'm dressed how I'm normally dressed, so in a sense, yes.
Same.
Oliver and Sarah are the only ones who look vaguely like they belong in the situation that's about to happen. You all walk in. Dolgrom sort of takes a moment at the door to appraise the collective. His eyes linger a bit on Stefan. And then he turns and walks away, leaving you all with your parents and Stefan feeling perhaps a little bit like the odd one out because he doesn't have someone here for him.
Yeah, he's just keeping quiet for now.
So you've returned
That we have.
with your intended company.
Yep.
Willingly, I gather.
Yeah, very willingly.
I don't see any shackles on him.
Well,
Yet.
shackles are not always visible.
Yeah, well, for us they would be. We don't have that level of power yet. But no, he came here willingly.
So, is there any reason you wish to see us first, other than just being our parents?
I assume that you still intend to proceed with your idea, your plan of convincing the rest of Pantheons that this is a worthwhile cause.
We do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now might be the time to at least attempt to make that case clear before you speak to them. Since you're all here.
Well, our case is that we believe that Stefan would be of more value on our side rather than serving the Titans. That there are other ways to go about this beyond just killing him.
Oliver, if you were a student, you'd get maybe 20% for that. I'm sure you know all about arguing a case, or at least providing supporting reasons. So
I tend to keep it brief for now, but once we get in there, I have plenty of reasons.
Wow.
Well, how about submitting those reasons now? And then you can weigh your options in terms of how it might go over with gods who probably don't have as much concern for you as we do.
I'd at least like to present extenuating circumstances and the fact that there is remorse, along with the fact that Stefan would be asset to finding our enemies and destroying them.
And also the fact that he has not yet been actually claimed by a god, so somebody could do that. And he has a lot of information that will prove very, very useful in the forthcoming fight.
And this would set a good example for us to gather possible children of Loki over time before Loki could come back or something like that. We'll have the jump on, I guess, Loki or whatever.
In essence, he would be a test run of sorts. If we can prove that Stefan can serve the side of the gods well and without any problems, then it would go to show that other signs of Loki can also be brought to our side, at least the ones that are unclaimed.
It's always better to gather the wayward children to our side before they get taken by the other side.
Maybe balance the scales a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the conversation thus far, Vidar has sat quietly. When Sarah first speaks up, he stands up from the table, puts out his cigar, and moves back away from the table a bit. When she finishes her initial statement, he nods, and then listens as everyone else makes their argument. By the time Sarah speaks again, he is smiling. But he does not speak.
While you might all see the good intentions of bringing in Stefan, we are not the ones that you have to convince. There are many people who will be gathered today to hear your case, and every single one of them has their own flavor of convincing. I would say with the hard facts and the evidence that you might have or might not have, you've got maybe a 30% chance. And that is not me being pessimistic, it is me being realistic. Not everybody is interested in the facts, but in the presentation in itself. And if you are all going to talk like that the entire time, learn the art of presentation before you go in there.
Teach us.
Okay.
Please teach us.
There we go. Well,
Bastet, would you like to take your daughter aside now?
yes. She's gonna hold out her hand, but when she pulls her hand out to hold, it's not a normal human hand, but a cat's paw. Come with me. We need to have a talk.
Okay. She's gonna look at the group and do like a salute and then call Pele over and then head over with her mom.
Bastet takes you by the hand, or takes your hand by her paw, and leads you from the room into a side room. This room, while not as lavishly decorated as some of the others that you have seen in Anvil, does have little nods to the Egyptians in it. There are what look to be hunks of stone that might once have been on a building, but the building has crumbled and the dwarves have managed to reclaim what they can and are now displaying it proudly as a marker of Egyptian history. There are silk throw pillows here and there. There are dashes of gold in many places. And Pele, for his part, sort of avoided the big scene in the other room the best he could. So the second you all pull off into this scene, he sort of hops down out of Coda's arms and finds somewhere soft to rest in a pillar of sunlight that is coming in through the window. Or moonlight that is coming in through the window. My apologies.
Sorry. So, if you can teach me the art of presentation.
Of course. Before we get into it, I need to know something.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you fighting for him?
Well, I feel like I can be honest with you. I should be able to. To be honest, I originally was on the team of course, let's get rid of this guy. He's done bad, so you get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Which, sure, that makes sense. But then I realized after learning more about him and other stuff, I realized I was doing the same thing that people did to me. They assumed this is a bad kid. She does bad things. She doesn't come from a good home. She doesn't have parents. So if she lashes out and hangs out with the wrong people and uses drugs and goes to therapy, she must be a bad person. And they didn't get to know me or know what my situation was. And it took someone giving me a chance to let me show others that I could be more than, well, what they thought I was. Which is not what I am. And that's the stuff I stand for. When I used to take care of the cats and the dogs and the stuff that came through these animal shelters, they see scrungly, disgusting street rats, and we can turn them into, we don't even turn them into, we just fluff them up a little bit nicer. We show them and give them the love and the second chance they need, and they flourish. And I think, and that's why I loved doing the work that I did then. And I realized, who am I to do the exact same thing that I've been fighting against people for doing? I'm not going to do this to Stefan. He deserves a second chance. Yes, he deserves to be punished because he has done bad things. But if you put someone in the trash and tell them that they're trash and that they should be thrown out, then aren't they going to do trash things? And I realized I'm not going to keep perpetuating that, whether it's I'm a human, I'm a dog, I'm a cat, I'm a whatever, I'm a god, I'm a Scion. I'm not going to let this vicious cycle continue. He deserves a second chance. And I and my group well, we hope to see it happen. No, we don't hope to see it. We will see it happen. He will get a second chance. Or at least people of Loki can get a second chance.
And that would get you at least one more vote. Your reasoning for doing it is good. You might be right. The children of Loki do deserve a second chance. I, personally, cannot stand Loki. I cannot stand what he stands for. I cannot stand for the actions that he has done. I cannot stand for the chaos that he has caused. Maybe it is a blessing that he is missing. But that doesn't mean that his children don't deserve a fighting chance. You want to convince a room of gods who are older than all of you combined together times 10. That one single person who has caused nothing but chaos is deserving of a second chance. You need to go into that room and be ready to fight like it is your life that is depending on it. Let me offer you a little bit of advice. There is somebody who is a part of our family. We call him Ra. The problem with him is he's going to be your most finicky. The man doesn't show much emotion on his face. He doesn't let you know what he's thinking. You can never really pinpoint if he's for or against something until he is perfectly clear in his intentions. All you can do to win him over is just state your case as it is. You don't have to approach him, but it might be best if you personally make yourself known to him. there are a couple of gods who are all about second chances and who don't like the act of violence being brought into this world. You're going to have to prove to them that Stefan is going to be taking a more pacifist turn.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You need to look at every god in their room and be ready to change your argument. Paint him in a different light depending on who you are speaking with. I am on a first name basis with many of them. I will tell you, the best people that you want to make an argument on is probably Loa. He was like you before he became a god. A Scion. A child of God who managed to rise into divinity because he just so happened to be good at a lot of things. Remind him about what it was like to be one of you. That feeling of invulnerability. That feeling of vulnerability. How your life, though more powerful than anything in this world, still had to be balanced on tiny little strings.
Okay.
I believe that from what the others have been telling me, that there is a slight possibility of adoption for Stefan. Do you know anything about that?
I do not. But if someone is willing to take him under their I know some of the gods have wings, some of them don't, but metaphorically, take him under their wing, then that's an option I can bring up to the group.
Bring it up to them.
Okay. Do you know someone who you think would be more possible, or that would lean towards more towards adopting Stefan? Do you think our family could?
I wouldn't put a bet on somebody from our family doing it. A lot of our kind of our family are a bit hesitant on adopting someone bloomed from chaos.
Okay.
I personally have you to take care of. If I tried to take in another, my cats would be running amok.
Okay.
But just remember this. No matter what happens, no matter what comes out of this, you have my support in whatever you decide to do. I also recommend not spending a whole lot of time on on the Aesir.
Yeah, they seem pretty set.
They are set in their ways and a bit, what did the kids say? Salty?
Yeah, salty. Yeah, that's yeah.
I will say, Odin's wife, she's here to represent the Aesir. She is simply here to basically save face, though it is bizarre that, Odin himself isn't here. It's probably nothing. He's spend time and pay attention to the ones that seem more empathetic. You'll see it on some of their faces. It's a bit of an easy sell.
Okay.
You're gonna have to paint him in about 8 different lights, but
I'm an artist. Not really, though, but I could be. I can be. I will be.
you are an artist, and he is your easel.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. If you need me, I'm not going far.
Thank you, Mom.
She's gonna put her pod hand on Coda's shoulder and then wrap it around her and pull her in just for not a hug, but she's gonna rest her forehead right on Coda's. Now, go and show them why you are powerful. Convince them to spare this man's life.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. After that touching and slightly intense lesson, you two have your time together. Back in the main room. Has everybody else peeled off from each other?
There's some things I'd like to pick Ogma's brain about, so I'd say yes on my part.
All right. Why don't you ask Ogma if he will step into another room?
Yes, of course. Would you mind if we discussed privately, Ogma?
Of course.
The two of you leave the core room and step into a side room, and you get the feeling, Oliver, that this particular building may have been intended originally for the Tuatha, though you have seen signs that parts of it have been redecorated to give deference to the other gods who are visiting and staying here in order to be supportive of their children. You walk in, and this room is decorated in depictions of like long tapestries woven with depictions of ancient Irish myths. There are every piece of furniture is carved from woods native to the Ireland and the islands around it. I don't know why that word was so hard to say. And islands around it, and there is the network, the knotwork, classic to your pantheon's decor and symbolism from one end of the room to the other. It's subtle, but it's always there everywhere you look. This is a room that looks like it was purpose-made for who your people are. And because they knew that Ogma in particular would be present, there are bookshelves on every wall, floor to ceiling, in all manner of languages, but especially with Ogm on the spines, which is unusual because Ogm as a language was very rarely on anything that wasn't stone or wood.
So, 20%. Thought you would have more faith in me than that, considering that one isn't supposed to put the crux of all their arguments in their thesis statement.
Oh, well then perhaps you mistake the context. This is closer to, shall we say, a dissertation, where you are going to be questioned by faculty who are not fond of you in all cases, and it is dependent upon you to make sure that you argue your case clearly, in detail, in a convincing manner, for those who are skeptical at best, in order to pass your examination, or you walk away with nothing. So I'm here merely to make sure that you understand the situation properly. And if you go in unprepared, I feel it would be doing you a disservice.
In that case, my ears are open for any tips that you might have for me.
You have spoken before in favor of this. In fact, I would say that you've spoken the most eloquently in favor of it. So I would say that you have essentially the emotions and reasoning that you need to argue this case. However, it must be convincing. It must be the strongest points, and indeed all the points that you can make, with an understanding of who you're talking to and an understanding of what something that you're familiar with, an empathy for the other perspectives that you will be speaking to, because there are many, and you have already heard at least a few. But again, I caution you, you are, and along with the other gods, you Scions are our children. And as with all parents, no matter how strict or how cold we might sometimes seem, we are warmer to you than others will be. We give you the benefit of the doubt. We hear you. We listen. So you will not be speaking to your parents. You will be speaking to others. And they will judge you in ways that we have not, or at least that we have been reluctant to do. So I encourage you to make sure that you have, in fact, a detailed and confident stance in your argument, that you speak with precision about the benefits and the reasons for keeping Stefan alive, or he will not make it through this. You have not rescued him. You have not saved him yet. He could very well end up being executed. And in fact, you could very well, according to your promise, be the one who has to carry that out. So there's a lot at stake here. And there is, in addition, if that decision should come down, the judgment that will come with it, that you brought him back at all. This is, in fact, a moment of truth. So I respect what you've done so far. I do. I'm surprised in some ways that he willingly came with you, and that he is, in fact, willing to do this. But understand that the battle is not over. In fact, it has just begun. And this is your time now, and you cannot softball this. You cannot go in with just a vague summary. You need to make it convincing, all the reasons, to keep any reason at all to keep him alive, and to adopt him, because this is unheard of, and the odds are in fact against you.
Thank you. There are a few other things I'd like to ask. One of which is something I asked for you to do for us, to carry a message. I don't know if they're present, but recently we aided a god in assisting or ensuring that his scions remain safe. So if Tezcatlipoca is present today, I would like to cash in a favor that he owes us. I've read up on him. I know he has a certain way with words and persuasion. So if he could put in a good word for us, I think it would mean a lot.
I can see to it that he gets that information, or at least that you are able to give that information to him yourself.
Thank you. And finally, I would like some advice on a more personal note. There are expectations that have been made very clear for me from my pantheon, and so far I still don't see myself measuring up to them. So simply put, how am I to even do that? Be a king, an heir of kings? I look at myself in the mirror every day and I just don't see it as possible. And right now I think being something akin to a king would come in handy.
Ogma is going to smile a little bit. Do you remember before you were a teacher?
I remember spending a lot of time cloistered away in a library in my dorm room working on my master's degree.
Do you remember the earliest days of your teaching experience?
I do.
Do you remember what it was like to get up in front of a classroom, many classrooms, students all staring at you with expectations, and doing that for the first time?
I do.
Did you feel overly confident about your teaching abilities at that point?
Not particularly, no.
No. Most teachers don't. It's something that they're unaccustomed to. You've been a student your whole life, and then all of a sudden you are in front of the classroom, dispensing knowledge and taking authority and, God forbid, managing classroom behavior, doling out discipline, setting rules and expectations, none of which you've ever had to do as a student. It's the same with being a king. When you're a king, very few come to it with the practices and experience that one needs to be a good king. All you can do is attempt to do the best job that you can with what you know and what each situation presents to you. Just like you are when you're a teacher, you learn as you go in some ways by doing it. I could tell you all about being a king, but it wouldn't be the same as being a king and acting as a king, as a leader. You must act as a king. You must be a leader to become a leader, which is, of course, something that we've been nudging you towards, that you need to have courage. You yourself have said this a number of times to others. This has reached my ears. of your encouragement of others and strengthening their cause. And a king knows this. A king knows that he or she is only as strong as the people who serve them, who carry out their commands. In fact, the king is only a beneficiary of everyone in the kingdom, willing to put their lives on the line and willing to put their interests before their own.
Right. Well, I'll see what I can muster up in there.
I'm certain you can. In the interest of achieving victory, I think it is important for you to also consider that it is our pantheon that can bind Stefan with the strongest oaths. It is our pantheon that is most willing, most likely to do that. You heard the Morrigan last time. And also Lou, who is a Scion himself, who's quite good at many things. But being a former Scion, understands that experience in a way that many of our divine colleagues haven't experienced. Just as it is with teaching and other forms of leadership, it helps if the leader themselves has had some shared experience to empathize with their learners, to empathize with those they're attempting to teach. Sure, you yourself know this. So both of them would be strong contenders for that. I believe you should seek out their approval and should speak with them about the possibilities of not only binding but also adopting him, which would satisfy, or at least move you slightly closer to satisfying the concerns of others. Because as you know, and as I know, without that binding oath, there will be no trust. There will be no certainty, no guarantee with that. At least with that oath, if things go wrong, as they very well might be, it will ensure that they cannot go more wrong than they already have. So that needs to be, it would probably be a good idea for you to lead that in that direction.
Right. You said Lug and who else?
The Morrigan.
Yes, of course.
Those, it is our pantheon that can bind him with the strongest oaths. And Lug and both the Morrigan know what happens when those oaths are broken. They can assure that when or if they are, that he will end, that there will be no further repercussions from that. I've looked at every way this ends. You know that I have. And in the interest of having any chance at all of victory here, you need to be sure to convince every one of these other deities that this is going to be a net gain in a lot of ways, because he has a lot to answer for. He needs to be able to speak up for himself too, or at least you speak on his behalf in the best way. Everything he can offer, all the points, all the reasons that you said to us before, the ones that you so eloquently said before that you neglected to say a few minutes ago in front of us. So I am saying, say what you said before. Say what is in your heart and in your mind. It's there. You just need to articulate it.
Understood.
I want you prepared for this defense. I want you to pass, like any good teacher.
All right. As this conversation winds through its points, and you talk about the things you know you can offer Ogma, back in the main room, others have begun to peel off from one another. I believe Artemis wanted to draw Kris aside.
Excellent.
Of course. I
You
motion.
two-
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I motion to Kris. I'm hoping that he's very, very intently paying attention to me in this moment as people are splitting off, and I will just gesture towards a corner of the room away from prying ears.
I'll nod and head over.
You all step into another side room. This room looks like it would normally be a dining room. But again, like the other rooms, things have been changed to give a nod to the Pantheon intended to use it. Everything is still wood, as it is in the rest of the town, but there are what look to be almost Greek columns that have been carved of wood along the edges of the room. There are vases that Artemis may have very well seen shortly after mortal hands made them many, many, many years ago. It is peaceful and serene and smells vaguely of olive trees. But you are alone.
Firstly, I have something to ask you. What would you prefer me call you? Mom, my lady, goddess, ma'am? What is your preferred way for me to address you?
I kind of chuckle at that because it has been a while since anybody has asked me that, and some of those titles are often reserved for certain companions of mine. Whatever you feel most comfortable with will be just fine, Kris.
Okay. I didn't want to cause offense, so thought I'd better ask.
You are very, very wise in that way, Kris, yes.
Thanks. A couple of other questions I'd like to ask you, if I may. Do the other gods know that of my lineage, as it were?
I kind of stiffen up as you ask this question, and I nod, and I say, some of them do. People talk, of course. The Aesir obviously are aware, and your new family as well. Beyond that, any who know, it would depend entirely on who folks told, who any of the other Scions would have told, and if those Scions passed word on to their families, and it's impossible to know how many know, but there are at least 2 pantheons that do, yes.
Okay. Well, see, I thought I might use it as part of my negotiation, but if everybody doesn't know, then, maybe that's not such a good idea, so... Okay.
Well, in your negotiations, it is important to know who you're talking to, so if you were to speak to Athena, perhaps that would be a point to bring up. The Aesir, of course, are a completely lost cause, so there's no point in talking to Frigg at all, but...
That was going to be my next question. Which gods are in attendance here?
Each pantheon has sent a god, obviously, as is their way. You have Atum Ra from the Bastet. well, he's old. Okay, to be clear, they're all old. Everybody in this room is incredibly old. And do not forget, as you walk into this room, just how old everybody in this room is compared to you. And I point at him with 2 fingers, because I really need to drive home this point that he is such a small fish in the pond that he is about to dive into.
No, I'm not a fucking idiot. I get it, I get that I'm the new kid on the block, I get it. But if they want us to go in there and negotiate for this guy's life, then I need to know who I'm going to be speaking with, because I need to know what floats their boat, I want to know what's likely to sway them. The thing about gods that I have learned recently is a lot of them are really kind of egocentric, right? A lot of them are.
Thank you.
A lot of them are. I've met some that aren't and some that are. Sentence I never thought I'd say. But let's face it, they have a lot of stories written about them down over the years, and a lot of good, a lot of bad, and I want to know what tickles their pickle. What is the sort of thing that's going to get them on my side? You understand?
You see my face kind of scrunch up a little bit when you say tickle my pickle, and I hold up a hand and say, I need you to never utter those words in that order ever again. Ever.
Kris doesn't give any expression whatsoever.
Okay, I'm going to take your lack of response as acceptance and acknowledgement, and we can move forward. Before I give you this information, I need to know why you are fighting so hard for Stefan.
I am an only child. My real TM parents never had any other children. My mom had a miscarriage before I was born. So I've grown up as an only child. And, you may think that's great because you get all the toys and, you get all your parents' attention. But when your dad is working long days and you never get to see him, and your mom's doing the same, looking after the house or whatever, you get real lonely, You don't have your friends around you 24/7. I didn't have any brothers or sisters. This is the first time someone has said to me, hey, Kris, you got a brother. And, it turns out that he's a bit of a motherfucker, but he's the only one I got. And if he is willing to be redeemed for all the shit that he did, then I want to redeem him. If he's not willing to be redeemed, or he can't be redeemed, well, I guess I'll have to suck it up. But if there's some chance that he can sit up straight and fly right and be brought back into the fold, as someone who is a wayward child who doesn't actually have anyone who has formally adopted him yet, then, I want to do that. I want to do that for him. Yeah, he's done a lot of wrong, but he only did that wrong because he was discarded by the Aesir and everybody else because of who his daddy is, that he has not actually met, I might add. So I feel that he's redeemable. I believe him when he says he's willing to repent and he's willing to buckle down and do whatever's needed of him. He's got a lot of information that I believe we need in this fight we got against the wolves and Ragnarok and everything else. And I think that if the gods could show mercy, if they could really show mercy, just like that time in the story when King Agamemnon bragged that he was a better hunter than you, and you caused all of the Greek ships to to lay calm in the sea, so he was going to sacrifice his daughter for you, and at the last minute you took away his daughter and replaced her with a deer. If everybody could show that same level of mercy, if all the gods could show that mercy like you did in that one time, then we can beat this Ragnarok.
I start to pace a little bit, not anxiously, just very methodically. You truly believe he can be redeemed, Kris?
Yeah.
Tell me, do you not find it odd that Stefan is the only Scion who, rather than being destroyed by the Fenris wolves, found himself working alongside them?
Do I not find that out? You mean amongst all the rest of the shit that's odd? Do I not find that one particular thing odd? No more odd than all the rest of the stuff that's happened to me recently.
Well, no, of course, because there are so many tales of the Fenris wolves taking in wayward Scions to do their bidding. And I turn and look over my shoulder, rather pointedly.
I kind of just stare back and shrug my shoulders. Okay.
You and I have talked an awful lot about how you would never forget where you came from, and I would never ask you to forsake your heritage, because it makes you who you are. And all of those things that make up who you are make you special to me. Your resiliency, your very nature, right?
Yeah.
So what if this is Stefan's nature? What if the Fenris wolves saw in Stefan the things that I saw in you, the things, the attributes, the traits that make him valuable to them? A wolf and a sheep can coexist so long as a wolf is full. But once that beast feels the pangs of hunger in its gut, the sheep is no longer its friend and is only a source of food.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that.
So how long until Stefan decides that this redemption arc that he would like to go through, at least once he came into your little group, is no longer what he truly desires? That he's bored of whatever is happening and wants to return to the things that make him Stefan at his core?
Do you think that's likely?
I'm a hunter, Kris. So are you. I know you're a hunter of truth. It's a slightly different kind of hunter, but we are both hunters. I've seen the beasts that need to get put down for the benefit of the pack.
You know, Stefan, when he went back to the wolves, they tried to kill him, so they've already moved on. They're not going to accept him. If we don't accept him, then he's out on his own. He's not going to be accepted by either side, which means he's not going to last 30 seconds. I am a firm believer that people can change, that sometimes people are a victim of the circumstances that they're in, not due to anything inside themselves, but because that's the lot in life that they've been given. And if we can change that, if we can change everything that he has to look forward to, if we can change his future, then he may decide that being on our side is better than being on the other side.
But you and him are the same, are you not?
No.
How so?
He's not me and I'm not him. We're very different people. He's on that side, wants to be on this side. I'm already on this side. Just the fact that he happens to be a son of Loki and so am I, well, big whoop. I never knew him before, what, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. No, a bit longer, maybe a week.
I get a little angry as he says that he is a son of Loki, because obviously I would prefer him to describe himself as a son of Artemis, but I maintain a little bit of composure. Yes, but if your argument is that he is a victim of circumstance because of what he experienced being a child of Loki, it's not that different from you being a child of Loki.
Quite literally, there by the grace of God go I. There by your grace go I. Without you, I may have fallen to the same thing that happened to him. I don't know. But I have the good fortune. I have the good fortune that you stepped in.
Was it fortune?
Or
Kris, the wolves found Stefan. Do you believe in your heart that if the wolves had found you, that you would be in the same place as them? Or would the wolves have killed you as they have done Scions before you?
no, I believe the wolves would have killed me.
So then how do you not see that you would not have come to the same fate, because you at your core are different than he is at his core, and it is your very nature that make you so different?
But that's what I said. You were the one who said that we're not that we're the same, and I said, well, no, we're not.
You're the same because of your shared heritage. There are things in this world that can befall the children of Loki. We all understand this. However, Stefan is the only one who did not meet that end. I am merely saying that and I pause a little bit because I need to be very careful with how I say this, lest it form a true rift between Kris and I. I am concerned that you are letting your shared heritage blind you. If you truly believe this, I will not stop you. I don't support it. I cannot support it, because I do not believe he is redeemable. But I will not stop you, and I will not interfere.
May I ask why you don't think he's redeemable?
Some dogs need to be put down because there's just something inside of them that just does not work with the way this world has been set up. There's too much that we don't know. We don't know why the Fenris wolves picked him. But what we do know is that dozens, if not hundreds, of Scions in the last 10 years have died since he has been working with them. This is somebody who saw the wolves, was taken in by the wolves, and chose to lead the wolves on a path that culled people like you, and people like Coda, and people like Oliver. "10 years. Hundreds of Scions dead. There is a lot of blood on his hands.
That's true. There is.
It does not sound like I am swaying you to my way of seeing things.
I'm sorry you think that.
Am I wrong?
No.
Oh.
Are you ever?
No.
There you go. I say with a smile. See, I can tell that in every little laugh you do, every, that you know that you're not wrong in everything that you say or do, that you couldn't possibly be wrong, that none of you could. That's exactly what I was saying about earlier on. I understand, I get it.
But you're going to try.
Yep.
It's at this point I let out a little bit of a sigh, and I just kind of hold my head in my hands, cross my legs, and gesture with the other. There are 2 gods that I can point you to. Again, my helping you out in this way is not endorsement of your actions, and I believe that I have made my hatred of this plan very well known.
Oh, you've made yourself perfectly clear, ma'am.
Perfect. Then, first, Athena. Athena is going to be difficult, but not impossible. Your biggest hurdle with Athena is Stefan's aggression. She does not like aggressive people, and that is not a stance that you can take with her. And I hold up a hand and point a finger at him. Aggression will lead to a no. Out the door.
I understand.
If you're going to convince her, don't lie to her. She will know. As honestly, and I laugh a little bit as I gesture back towards the room, lying to a god is typically a bad idea anyway.
I think we probably already got that one, to be quite honest, but yeah.
Yes, of course. I just need to say it for reasons. And I laugh again. If you can truly prove that Stefan regrets his actions and is open to actually making a change, if you can make it clear that Stefan is looking for ways to behave that aren't automatic aggression, like aggressive war responses, and that his working with the gods can help cut back on the amount of potential bloodshed in the future, because he understands how the wolves work and this is valuable information, that's most likely to win Athena over.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. And as you brought up, he is somebody who, and I squirm a little bit because I'm not incredibly happy with this argument, though I understand why Kris wants to make it. If you can get Athena on your side by proving, or by, it's a little hard to prove that, but by convincing Athena that Stefan only acted with aggression as a response to aggression, that might be an angle that you could take with her as well.
Okay.
the only other one based on this line of argument, you could talk to Legba. He's here for the Loa. He's kind of a guide. He's known for being a guide to mortals, both in the literal and the spiritual sense. He'll get you where you need to go and to also make sure your soul's in the right place. If you can convince Stefan that he needs to acknowledge that he has things about this world to learn and that he's open to feedback and guidance from the gods, potentially on how to be less aggressive going forward. Really kind of prove that Stefan has seen the error of his ways. That has the potential to take you far.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. I wish you luck.
Yeah. I think we're gonna need it.
You absolutely do. Yes.
Oh well. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, as they say.
Quite.
The chase is always better than the catch, as the one true god Lemmy once sang.
Well, yes, the hunt is the true fun, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Returning to the central room where everybody has departed and gone to speak in their own little pairs, we are left with Sarah Baxter, Scion of Vidar, Vidar himself, and Stefan Vargr.
Vidar looks around at the closed doors where the other gods have taken their children. He looks across the table, still standing, looks down at the ashtray, probably 8, 9 cigar butts sitting in it. And then he looks at Sarah. Well,
She looks back.
Counselor, I see
Sir?
you were able to convince your client to come and face the music. I will give you props for getting that far. So, you're him, Stefan, the big bad wolf.
I guess.
Vidar looks between the two of them and takes a half step around the table towards Sarah.
She's gonna put an arm up to, like, block Stefan from him.
I said my piece when we saw each other last. I'm not gonna hash that back over. You are my daughter, and you have made your choice. You're not any more likely to change your mind about how you want to do things than I would be. So what I will tell you is this. In an effort to avoid the potential for diplomatic tensions with the other pantheons, the Allfather has elected to remain in Asgard. His wife Frigg has come here to represent our people. She speaks with his authority. She also agrees with him. You are extremely unlikely to find a receptive audience in the Queen of the Azir. I would suggest, however, that you treat her with extreme respect just by taking this tack, by moving forward with this quest to redeem this man. You have already angered many of the gods, especially those of your own family. You are my child. In some ways, your choices reflect on me. However, unlike those of us who have dwelt in Asgard for millennia, you have something still that in many ways fate has deprived us of. You have the opportunity, you have the chance to choose a different way. And he pauses and turns back to Stefan. By choosing to offer you an olive branch, Sarah has willingly placed her own head on the headsman's block. But it is a choice that she believes in. And even if I disagree, I will stand up between the Allfather himself, the entire Pantheon, and you, Sarah, because you have the right to decide what you believe. You and your friends made the argument that Stefan here has shown remorse, that he is sorry. You have made the argument that he was, to a certain point of view, acting in self-defense by taking the course that he has chosen. Maybe you're right. Perhaps our pogrom against the children of Loki has forcefully put him in this position. I don't know. What I know is this. If you go into that room and face this tribunal of the gods with anything other than your absolute best courtroom face on, you will lose. This is quite literally the most important trial of your life, counselor. Your client's life hangs in the balance, as does yours. I would say that mine does as well, but we all know what happens to me in the end. They can't get rid of me. They need me. But I'd rather not spend the time from now till Ragnarok having a blood eagle done on me every day. Don't mess this up. Of the gods who have gathered for this event, there are two that I've personally dealt with, and another that I know by reputation. The Greeks and the Celts are probably the two pantheons that we at Aesir have dealt with most throughout our history. They're our neighbors. Athena is here to represent the Greeks. I'm sure you remember from school, she is their goddess of wisdom and war. She is the rational, strategic thinker. She has a knack for remaining objective, as long as she is looking at an objective problem. If you go on the offensive with her, she's likely to get defensive. Lu is here representing the Tuatha. He used to be like you. He was born a mortal man, a Scion. Through his heroism, through his deeds, through a lifetime spent building up his own legend, he achieved apotheosis. He was made a god among their people. I guess he's what you might call a dabbler. Where I tend to be very narrowly focused, he does a little bit of everything. But one of the things he's their god of is law and order. He's a big believer in everybody getting their second chance and everybody having their day to argue their case. Third, Ganesha is here from the Devas. He's ultimately, I guess you could say, he's their god of good luck. He takes a fair and balanced look at everything around him. At least that's his reputation. Again, he pauses, and he turns once again to Stefan. I cannot count the number of people, the number of gods who have been hurt by the choices you've made. But I will acknowledge our policy towards your bloodline has left you with few choices.
You are much more reasonable than the stories say.
Odin looks to the future. Thor looks for the fight. I take care of my family's business and see things through to the end. I promise you one thing, Stefan Vargr. If you get my little girl killed, there is no safe place for you. Do you understand me?
I believe we've always had an understanding.
Indeed. Sarah,
Yes.
I can't tell you how this is gonna go. But I want you to understand. Again, I may disagree with what you're trying to do, but I'll defend to the end your right to do it. Good luck in there. I'm afraid you're gonna need it.
Thank you. That actually means a lot. And she'll take a less defensive position.
Vidar takes another step forward and reaches out a hand to offer Sarah a handshake.
She'll take it and give a firm shake.
He nods and then steps around her and offers Stefan the same.
There's a moment of hesitation, but he will reach out.
Vidar's grasp is firm, but not crushing. He looks you in the eye, and he nods. My daughter has chosen to tie her destiny to you. Her fate will be decided along with yours. Only the Norns may know what happens next. And I'm willing to bet even they didn't see this coming. Vidar
Wow.
turns, walks back over to the table, and picks up his lighter. And he lights another cigarette.
Well, following the meetings with their parents, said divine parents have not scattered, but have gone to take up their places in the room where all of the gods are congregating for this decision, leaving their children and Stefan, the would-be Scion of Loki, alone for just a moment in that core room. As you all are sitting there, there is a door that opens to a side room that none of you went into earlier, and a woman's head pops in. And you all immediately recognize Betty, Dolgrom's wife. And she kind of pokes her head in and she looks around like she's a little nervous. And she's just making sure that there's nobody else around. And then she steps in. Hello, kids.
Betty, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you too. I'm glad you're all safe.
for the moment, anyway.
Oh, he'll be safe. It's your new, brother, that I can't really speak for. Hello, I'm Betty. I'm, the mayor's wife. You've met
It's
him.
nice to meet you. I believe I have, yes.
It's nice to meet you too. Listen, I don't have time. He's gonna be here soon and he would not like me talking to you right now, but there are some things that I wanted to tell you about. I hope you don't mind, but I've been, and she'll kind of tug on her ear, keeping an ear out on all your little tete-a-tetes. And there's some information that I think I can provide to help. It's not much, but it's something. Can't say that I necessarily agree with what you're doing, but if this is the path you're taking, I want you to have the best chance you can, because the more people you piss off in that room, the more enemies you're going to have going forward. There are a couple of gods that didn't really get talked about. From the celestial bureaucracy is Guan Yi. The big thing to remember, he's a jerk, and he doesn't come across like a jerk, but he is. Be careful about what you say and how you say it. Be respectful. Don't give away more than you have to, but provide information on how useful Stefan could be. I don't think he even would have been here if it weren't for what happened to your friend. And she's looking at Coda. So, while I doubt that he particularly cares about what happened to Net. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. While I don't think he particularly cares about what happened to her, the fact that this has all spilled over and is really affecting their pantheon and putting their assets at risk is probably why he's here. From the Japanese, Amaterasu, she's vain. That's kind of the big thing. Be respectful. Also remember that she is very, very good looking, and she can be very distracting just with her presence, and she will not rein it in for you, so you have to be focused. Okay? And we had a late arrival. I don't know much about her. I know that she's Persian. She's from the Yazada. And she's a life god. So make an argument for life. Try to convince her of how many more lives can be saved by your brother being alive than how many would be lost because you didn't have him as an asset on your side.
Can I just ask a question? You said from the celestial bureaucracy. Who was it who's here?
Guan Yi?
Guan Yin?
Yi. Oh, I'm sorry, not Guan Yi. Huang Di. I am so sorry. That is a storyteller mistake. I have too many names on a list, and I read the wrong one.
The Yellow Emperor.
Yeah. Him. We don't see much of him over here because he's usually busy in China, but what little I've managed to pick up is that he's not a nice guy, but he is very tactically minded. So, tactics and what Stefan can offer on that front. Okay?
Thank you, Betty.
Horse. And she'll kind of move over and she'll very gently tug Coda into a hug, and then the same with Kris and Oliver and Sarah. Like just one at a time, and it's this hug that makes you feel like it's a little old lady hug, effectively. It's warm and inviting and gentle, and it's for those of you who had grandparent figures who were kind to you. Reminds you of that. For those of you who didn't, it reminds you of what you kind of think it would feel like based on what you've seen in movies. All right. Good luck to all of you. And she'll kind of pause and look at Stefan and shake her finger at him. Watch your step. They're gonna expect you to talk. Make a good argument. And do your best not to throw these fine people under the bus for your fuck up.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And she'll hold out a hand to shake your hand.
You will shake her hand.
Please don't make any of us regret this. And then she will turn and she will slip out of the room just as the opposite door begins to open. And Dolgrom in full armor is standing there.
I am to lead you to the Council of Judges.
All right then. Let's get to it then.
And he, just before turning on his heel, gives a nod to all of you and a very hard look at Stefan before it doesn't wither, but just kind of, why do you have to be here, sort of thing. And then fully turns his face and starts to walk away.
Okay. You are led into the town hall. You have been here before. It is, of all of the buildings, the most imposing. The most... It somehow is even more imposing now, and it takes a minute. And none of you kind of understand where this almost oppressive, towering feeling that it gives you that wasn't there before is coming from, until Oliver, that part of your senses that is particularly clued into magic kind of kicks in, and you realize that why it feels that way is because there is fate is a massive radiating presence coming off of this building. You can see thousands upon thousands, possibly millions of fate threads, just barely visible, but visible nonetheless to your very keen eye, that essentially pass through the building's walls and stretch out into oblivion and the rest of the world. You also notice in this moment that there is a new fate thread that attaches all of you. It passes from each of you, and it is connected to what you realize what looks uncomfortably like a shackle around each of your wrists. And the fate thread is a chain that passes, and it is attached to each of you in turn, and Stefan as well. And as you get closer and closer to this building, it becomes more and more, I don't want to say heavy because it's not physical, but it almost feels heavy to your senses. Like it is becoming more and more resolute and solid. Whatever comes, whatever is about to happen, you all are tied together and there is no escaping it. It's going to befall all of you in some way, shape, or form. And you can feel the power radiating out from this building. Dolgrom has always felt a bit like a solid, imposing force when he's around you, but he feels small and insignificant compared to what is coming off of this building. You can tell without even walking through the front doors that there is already a large source of divinity, a large imposing press of divine power coming from that building in front of you.
Well, here we go.
You all are led into the building. For Sarah, and possibly for Oliver, because you two have more intensive schooling than those around you, you walk into what feels a little bit like a moot court. There is a line of gods along one wall, sitting behind a table. We're on a podium, on a dais behind a table. They are of all different colors and shapes and ethnicities, and they are all dressed in what you would interpret as a traditional garment for their particular pantheon. Or at the very least are in modified modern clothing that have nods to traditional garments. Each of them, and none of you need to have the mystery purview for this, each of them is exuding a level of divinity that even your own parents haven't shown around you. It's not blinding, it's not painful, but it's not comfortable. They are only veiling the heights of their power, probably to keep from potentially driving somebody mad or, making somebody go blind the moment that they walk in the room. But they are not making they're making very little effort not to make it clear who and what they are. There is a curved table that faces theirs, which has 5 seats to it. And there is a chair in the middle of the other 4 that has... What you realize after a moment is an actual physical set of shackles that could connect to the wrists and to the ankles. As you are led over, you are not forced into them, Stefan. It is clear that this is meant to be your chair. You're not forced into them, but they are there as an ever-present reminder that you very well could be tied up if this goes poorly or if you make a scene. And as you all settle into your seats, Dolgrom steps forward.
Scions, I present to you the Council of Judges for this trial. From the Pesejet, Atum Re, god of the sun. From the Dodecatheon, Athena, goddess of wisdom and war. From the Aesir, Frigg, great sorceress and queen of the Aesir. From the Atzlanti, Quetzalcoatl, god of learning. From the Amatsukami, Amaterasu, goddess of the sun and the universe. From the Loa, Legba, god of crosswords, doorways, and language. From the Tuatha, Lu, god of the sun, light, and law. From the celestial bureaucracy, Huangdi, god of rain and clouds. From the Deva, Ganesha, god of good luck and wisdom. From the Yazeta, Anahita, goddess of royalty, war, and fertility. I, Dolgrom, will be here as adjutant to them, and keeper of the peace should the prisoner step out of line. Speak when asked, answer without lie.
As they are introduced, each god doesn't stand up, but sort of inclines their head to make it clear who he's talking about. And in the middle of the table is Frigg, who clears her throat, looks around at the other members of the council, and then at all of you. Her eyes linger on Stefan. She's unreadable, but she watches him closely for a moment before speaking, and her gaze returns to all of you in turn. We are here to listen to your proposal and hear your evidence. You will have time to present your argument, followed by time where we are able to talk with one another, gather, and confer. Following that, you will be brought back in and given the opportunity to make a final argument, as I understand that one of you is in law. And she kind of looks over at Sarah pointedly. And there's a moment where she glances at Vidar. And there is... Sarah, you have the keen feeling that it's not a friendly look. It's not even a particularly accepting look. It is a look of distaste and judgment. She's not happy that you are the reason that she is here. After which, votes will be taken. You must win the popular vote in order to have this motion passed. Is all of that understood?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Each of the pantheons has taken the opportunity to ward this place both magically against danger, but also to ward it against outright lies. Mr. Vargr, if at any point you are determined to be acting in a threatening manner, or you simply do something to make us mad, you will be chained and gagged. Is that understood?
Yes, my queen.
Very well. Counselor, you have the floor. Sarah, she's looking at you.
Oh. Sarah will step forward and kind of look around the room, but refuse to meet anyone's eyes. And she will take a deep breath before saying, there is a major imbalance perpetrated by these Titan spawn that have been pursuing us. And apparently they're Scion puppeteers. Here, today, there is a chance to start tipping the scales in our favor. Before you is a man responsible for the horrid acts done to my fellow Scions and to you, honorable deities. He is here before you when others would not be, in the hopes of a chance of redemption. His desire is to protect the unclaimed children of Loki from the fate that he himself experienced from an unprompted awakening. Stefan Vargr has expressed a deep remorse for his actions, a desire to work to pay back for his crimes, and to help your remaining children in extinguishing the current threat. Before you is this opportunity to gain an ally, information, and insight on how to defeat our overwhelming enemy, and show a mercy that our enemies would never even consider. My desire is to see this potential in Stefan fulfilled, of this lost child of Loki, to deter the apocalypse called Ragnarok. But this judgment will be left to you. And she'll nod and step back.
Do any of the rest of you have arguments you wish to make?
Yes.
She shifts slightly in her chair to lean back, and her hands very deliberately, or her arms very deliberately, rest on the arms of the chair so that her fingers can curl around the ends. Then speak, Stefan Vargr.
I do not wish to bring anything up currently, however. I would like to return objects that belong to our noble pantheons. And he will begin taking off and out the birthrights that he has gained throughout his time. I will set them on the table in front of me to show no ill will. I would also wish that the birthrights that belonged to the children of Loki be given to the Queen Frigg in his place.
There is a moment where there is a very hushed shift and vague whisper among members of the council. You can't hear what they're saying, but you can see them all reacting to this agreement to return lost relics. Frigg sort of leans over, and a woman who is absolutely stunning whispers to her kind of under her breath. This woman is obviously Japanese, and based on the description that you all were given, is Amaterasu, and she is incredibly distracting. Frigg is beautiful. Amaterasu is like looking at the sun, but it doesn't burn to look. You just can't get over how overpoweringly gorgeous she is. And Frigg sort of nods after a moment. Very well. You may return these gifts. As you do so, you will state which pantheon they belong to, and Dolgrom, mayor and protector of Anvil, will present them to the member of the council to whose pantheon they belong.
Stefan will nod, and will begin presenting each item.
Okay. You go through the list, placing things on the table. And as you do so, I'm going to assume that Dolgrom will methodically pick each item up and return it to the parent that it belongs to. For the sake of brevity, we're not going to go through the whole list because there are a lot of them.
Each one he cradles as if it were a child.
Excellent. By the time it is over, there is a small pile before most of the gods. There are less before Huangdi and Huangdi doesn't have very many. Sorry, I'm looking at my list. Huangdi doesn't have very many. Ganesha only has one or two, and Anahita, there is only one in front of her. But there are a pile before Frigg in particular, and each one almost seems to make that divinity that is rolling off of her more powerful. You all can feel a radiating, passionate sense of displeasure. And it is only that she is very in control of herself. You get the feeling that there is not more happening to make it a more physical display. By the time that they are all placed, she nods. Is there anything else?
There are no more birthrights currently within my possession.
And are there any other statements that need to be made?
I'll put my hand up.
Mr. Strom, Scion of Artemis, you may speak.
I'll nod at Stefan and then stand up. Thank you for hearing me. I would like to say, on Stefan's behalf, that he awoke, to use that word, unexpectedly without anybody to guide him. He did not have a god to take him under their wing. And so he fell in with a bad crowd, okay? So he only acted with aggression as a response to the aggression that he felt because of who his father was, a birthright that he did not choose himself. And from what Stefan has told me, he regrets his action and is really open to make a change, and he's looking for ways to behave that would prove his worth to you, to the gods, to our society as a whole, to help stave off Ragnarok. He would like to cut back on the bloodshed that has been spread, hopefully to provide information on the Fenris wolves and Gwen and the other people on the other side that we are fighting against. And I would like to believe that if he is open to receive feedback and guidance, and if it can be shown that, proved that he has seen the error of his ways, he would be a very valuable member of our society. I understand that he would not have to be put under constraints, and he would have to have some kind of binding put on him, and I think even he understands that as well. But with your mercy, and I know all of you have it within you, the infinite power of mercy, I would like to make an argument that his life would be beneficial to help saving more lives with the information that he has that will prove useful in the war that is to come. I think that's it. Thank you.
Very well.
I'll sit down.
You sit. Frigg gives a slow nod, and her eyes sort of dart over to Artemis for just a moment before returning to the rest of you. Is there anything else? Or are we able to convene to discuss with our colleagues our decision?
I will step up. Is it, quick question, is it just open floor, or is there like a podium there for us?
It's more that you step up to a podium that is before it. Stefan is the only one who has not been given the opportunity to do so, probably because of the role that he plays in all of this. As you stand, Rig draws a deep breath and nods. Mr. Bright, Scion of Ogma, what say you?
I'm going to take a breath, look around at each of the gods present, starting to feel a bit overwhelmed, and open my mouth, but initially nothing comes out. Then I close my eyes, take another breath, then open them, and look at each god, meeting their gaze, and then nod. Sinue, Heracles, Hodor, Tezcatlipoca, Susanna Noo, Shengo, Kukulane, Sun Wukong, Ajamila. I apologize for any butchering of names that I just did there, but there are 3 things each one of those have in common. 1, each individual, hero, and or god that I listed is a member of the pantheons here today. All but 1. I apologize, I was not aware of one of them. I'd only known so many in my travels. Number 2, each individual I mentioned is guilty of some sort of wrongful act, something distasteful, something criminal, something bad, or something just unpleasing. Number 3, each individual was either redeemed, forgiven, or had their grievances overlooked entirely. Now, I confess, some examples are weaker than others in that list, but each one is still prevalent to Stefan's case. And it shows a precedent that each of you are capable and have done in the past, shown mercy and a chance at redemption. Now, I know it's a matter of can. That is very possible for you. But the real question is why? Why would you? I can understand how you feel. You're angry, hateful, and afraid of what he is capable of if we were to let him into our side. The reason why is because it's the smart thing to do. He is too useful to cast away. You are afraid of what he's capable of. My own pantheon works off of a basis of oaths. If he were to be adopted into said pantheon, as he has not been visited by a child of Loki, those oaths can be used to bind him to ensure he does not do something too grievous, that he stays within the lines that we entrusted within him. You're hateful and angry. Many of the people I listed in those list of names underwent some sort of trial, several trials, most of them several trials, to prove that they are capable of redemption. The same can be done to Stefan. If he succeeds, then he proves his merits and shows that he can be a valuable asset. If he fails, then it's the same conclusion what would happen if you were to cast him away now. And if it works, if we can show here with Stefan that a Scion of Loki, a child of Loki, who has not been visited by Loki, can be a Scion of someone else and contribute to their pantheons and the gods as a whole against the Titan spawn, then I think the same thing can be done with all the other unclaimed children of Loki, because that is the benefit of Loki being gone right now. There are many Scions of his that have not been claimed, that can be brought onto our side and used as assets to fight the Titans, to push back against the oncoming apocalypse of Ragnarok. They don't need to be hunted down. They are guilty of something they did not ask for, that being children of Loki. They did not wish for that. They did not have any choice in the matter. So why should they pay the price for it? Why should they be hunted and slaughtered for it, when instead they could be put to good use, helping and fighting for us? If we can prove that is possible with Stefan, then it is only a net gain. If we prove that it's not possible with Stefan, then nothing is lost either way. And that is the argument I present before you. Thank you for hearing me out, and thank you for your time. I will step back.
There is a pause from Frigg. During this time, you notice that other gods are leaning over, murmuring to each other under their breaths, whispering. During this time, Sarah, Coda, Kris, and Stefan, while Oliver is talking, you notice that in a rafter above that head table are 3 birds. All of them corvid. 1 is a crow, 2 are ravens. And it's only seeing them side by side that you realize that while they are all part of the same family and similar, they are not quite the same. The 2 ravens are perched directly above Frigg's seat and are watching closely. The Crow is somewhat separated from them and also watching quite closely, but is also, as often as it is watching you all, it is scanning and looking at the gods below it. Is there anything else that needs to be said? Or will Miss Massaquoi be saving her speech for the end?
No.
Your
I
closing
think
statement.
I could speak now.
Very well. Miss
Hello.
Massaquoi, Scion of Bastet, please step up to the podium.
Coda will stand up and go to the podium. She'll look at everyone in the eye and do like a slight nod to everyone. And then let out a breath and go, hello. Again, I'm Coda Massaquoi, Scion of Bastet. I'm also Coda Massaquoi, a student at so-and-so. I'm also Coda, a brand new Scion that was recently thrown into this world. I'm not sure how many of you have ever been a Scion before, but at the very least, I know you all have at some point met your children, your Scion, and I'm sure you all had that moment where the child has wide eyes when they realize I'm something special, or maybe they're wide eyes of fear, or fear, joy, whatever the emotion is. I'm sure you all possibly remember this. So now imagine we have a child who is realizing that they're different. And when it's time for them to maybe have that visit, it's something to explain. Why are they different? What makes me special? Why do these things happen to me? And instead they are met with stories and possibly proof that they are from something evil, something bad, and they must be hunted down. Imagine that. And of course this child would run to whatever would protect them, whatever they can find solace in. And I believe this is what happened with Stefan. I think many of my colleagues have already said pretty much what I want to say too. But I think a good case we have here is someone who was brought into a world, a very intimidating world, and was only shown the bad end of it all. However, this person is here willing to redeem themselves. They're willing to give up birthrights. They're willing to maybe take oaths. They're willing to give back what they have taken. And I know, trust me, I know the anger you can possibly have. But I think we can really balance the scales here. One life for the many. I think we can really benefit and use the skills he has, the knowledge he has, the motivation he has to do better. We can use that to save so much more in the future. We can save so many Scions from possibly having to think and feel exactly what he felt. I like to work forward, move forward. Think of the more people, the more family members that we can save coming up if we keep him in the fold. We keep perhaps a tight leash on him, whatsoever you need. But we can save so much more keeping him than just getting rid of him. One life for many, that's not balanced at all. It's not balanced. And what we need right now in our world, when we have so many out against us, is to balance our scales within. So we have balance. In fact, we should tip the scales in our favor. And I feel like we can do that if we have the information and the support that Stefan can give us. I'm new at this, but I just think that just makes sense. Thank you. That's all.
As Coda returns to her seat, Frigg gives you all a look. Very well. You've all had a chance to say your piece. Let us hope that you did not save all of your arguments for now, and that you still have something to close with. We will take some time to confer and reconvene at a later time. She stands, as do the other gods, each of them one by one. Some of them are looking at you. Some of them look curious. Some of them look angry. Some of them look bored. And they, one by one, file out through various doors. You all are left alone for the moment, with only Dolgrom as company, but shortly after, he moves away from you into sort of a position that suggests that he is waiting. He doesn't have to stand guard at the moment because there is no one for Stefan to be threatening towards except all of you, and you have already taken your chances. So, you all now have a chance to either talk amongst yourselves or to pursue specific gods if you wish to attempt to make more direct pleas, deals, arguments. What would you like to do?
So, that went quite well, I think. Let's, as a team, decide, should we split up and treat specific gods?
Possibly. My mom told me it. Well, she told me a lot, actually. She said Ra is kind of someone who they have a good poker face, pretty much, and you'll only know when he's made his decision, when he makes his decision, that's only when you'll see a reaction on his face. So that's for Ra. And then she told me about Lu was once a Scion, so we can aim towards an angle like that. So I guess if we head towards Lu, we just talk in that angle.
All right. We were told that Hong Di was a practicalist, and I believe most of my arguments involve the practical benefits of having Stefan around, so I might seek him out.
Mm-hmm.
And I might also seek out Lug, since I think I can potentially drive home the points of the Gaius and how that could be a benefit, and he's the one who understands it as well as any of the people within my pantheon, besides maybe the Morrigan.
Yeah, I feel like anyone that's based towards facts and logic and such, I maybe shouldn't go towards them. I think I'm leaning more towards the emotional kind of deal.
Smarts.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Nope, that's it.
I was going to say that Artemis told me quite a bit about Athena, but a little bit about 3 others as well. Athena does not like aggression, so do not be aggressive, do not lie. I mean, lying to gods anyway, what sort of fucking idiot would do that?
Yeah.
But Artemis said that if we can truly prove that Stefan regrets his actions and is really open to make a change, and that he's, like looking for ways to behave that are not automatic aggression responses, and that his working with the gods can help cut back on the bloodshed, like I said, then Athena's going to be open to that. Papa Legber is the one who likes to guide Scion, so if Stefan is open to feedback and guidance from Legba, prove that Stefan has seen the error of his ways, then Papa Legba might be the one to approach about that. Legba stands at the crossroads and helps kind of guide spirits and things like that, so he'd be super interested in that. Huang Di would be very interested on the what can Stefan offer angle. What's the benefit of having him on our side? That's what Huang Di would be interested in. And the Persian lifeguard, I don't know who that is, I can't remember which name, is a lifeguard, so needs to make an argument that Stefan being alive could help save the lives of a shit ton of other people or something like that, I guess. That's the information that Artemis gave me. And I pretty much said that when I stood up, but we gotta kind of really drill that home to these gods.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think we have a whole lot of time, so I think we should each seek out the god or gods that we think would be best to make our points to and see what we can do.
I would, if it's allowed, like to seek out one Mr. Dolgrom.
Dolgrom, you're being addressed.
Am I allowed to leave this chamber to attempt to speak to one of the gods?
You are.
Yes. I will be following you, but you are allowed to leave.
Of course. I plan to meet with Frigg.
Huh?
There is no one that I have hurt more within this room than the Aesir. If anybody deserves the apology, it is them.
All right.
Okay. Well, we're going to go down the list of those you want to make your arguments to. I will allow each of you to pick one at first. We will save Frigg for last. No offense. I have the feeling that's going to be the biggest scene, so we're going to do the others first. Sarah, who specifically would you like to seek out?
Ganesha.
All right. You saw which direction Ganesha went in. He's not difficult to find. He is talking with a number of other gods who a glance suggests that he's probably talking to Huang Di and Amaterasu. Amaterasu, as you are kind of walking into this room where you are so small that you are easily... I should say you're aura-wise, power-wise are so small that you are easily overlooked while these gods are having a very heated conversation. And you hear Amaterasu say something, well, you know how it is with Titan-blooded Scions and gods. They're always evil. And Ganesha says, what did you just say? Well, they are. The Ichor is different. And he says, no, it's not. It's all the same divine Ichor. Most of us come from Titans originally. And she continues to argue before Ganesha looks at Huang Di and says, I'm going to step away. You should still her tongue before I still it for her. Same Ichor. And then he turns and he walks away. And as he is walking away, he comes, almost runs into you because he's so caught up in the moment, it seems, that he didn't notice you at first. Ganesha is a hardy and robust man. He is tall and broad of shoulder. maybe a little bit pudgy, but not super out of shape. He's got, for lack of a better term, like the perfect dad bod. He's in shape, he takes care of himself, but he's softer in his older years. And he kind of pauses and looks at you as if only just now realizing that you're there. Apologies, Miss... was it?
Yes, pardon me. I heard your conversation a bit, and I was wondering if you could explain a bit more about your thoughts on all of this.
I have a number of thoughts. Here, and he kind of looks back at Amaterasu kind of disapprovingly, and kind of guides you slightly off to the side and out of earshot. Is there something specific you wished to know?
This one, and she'll kind of gesture to Amaterasu. Is she completely on the no side?
I couldn't tell you, honestly.
What about...
Amaterasu is worried about Amaterasu and her pantheon. It's difficult to get a good read on her, and she and I have never seen eye to eye on many things.
Could I maybe get a hint about where you stand?
I have mixed feelings. I am not convinced either way.
Is there anything I could perhaps clarify?
I would like to know what do you believe the chances are that Mr. Vargr's actions and all of the blood on his soul, what are the chances that he can turn away from the life he was living? It is easy enough to present oneself and prostrate oneself and claim that you are a different person, that you will be a different person. It is very different to act upon that. What will he be able to do to balance the karmic scales? Because they are wildly unbalanced right now.
Most namely, save Scions that he would have otherwise hurt in his own search for survival. This is an opportunity for him as much as it is for anything else. But I see the desire. He wants this, and if he wants it bad enough, it will work.
He would need to be very lucky for it to work. And to win enough people to his side.
Well, I suspect you know a thing or two about luck, she'll say with a grin.
He will smile just barely despite himself. One could say that I do know a few things about luck. I also know a few things about defying the odds, having done it a few times myself and helped others to do it. My concern is that I am not sure that Mr. Vargr hasn't used up all of the luck fate has for him. He survived, if we are to assume that he had no real help until the wolves approached him. He survived quite a long time on his own. This is unheard of.
There are many statistics, but none can be accurately measured due to outliers, and they do exist, but they're rare.
The
I would
biggest
like.
Oh, I apologize. Continue.
I just meant that I would like to present the possibility that he may be one. There are those strong enough and smart enough to outrun, well, nearly anything.
Yes, there are. But in our world, there is one additional statistic that cannot ever truly be measured, but is nevertheless always present, and that is fate. What if the path that Stefan Vargr has walked is the path that fate intended for him, and that this is all an attempt to defy it? If fate wishes him to be ever the villain, he will be ever the villain.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
Us as Scions and our ties to fate.
I am not an expert, but I will endeavor to answer them.
It seems more like strong pulls instead of binding as it would the gods. Would it be possible that we are able to rely on our still human nature to make these changes to ourselves?
It is true that Scions are less at the mercy of fate than the gods are. It is a point of difference between us and why Scions are so very necessary and why Mr. Vargr's crimes are so serious. Taking of any life is something that should be done carefully and with forethought, but taking of lives imbued with ichor, lives that are destined to be touched by fate. And he sort of shakes his head. And there's a moment when he shakes his head where you swear you almost see an elephant's head superimposed on him. But you blink and it's gone, and he's just the man you've been talking to. It is possible that you can defy fate, but only for so long. Fate binds beings like the gods in rules because it is... We have... Think of it like... My friend Mananan McLear would tell you to think of it like tidal pull. We are divine bodies, celestial bodies. We are pulled on by fate and vice versa. Scions are smaller. You are better able to maneuver dangerous waters than we are. That is why you are so important, and why we take it so seriously when someone goes hunting and killing people like you. You all are our link to the world. Without you, we have nothing. We can do nothing but watch as the Titans take everything back. Because if we get directly involved, fate steps in.
I see.
Understand, if Stefan Vargr is as lucky as he seems to be, then I am not unconvinced. But you have given us much to think on. Is there anything else that I can answer for you? Any other insights I can give?
No, sir. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And she'll nod her head and kind of return back to the seating area.
He will offer you a handshake before you go.
She will give a firm shake in return.
It is warm. He gives your hand a tiny squeeze, but you can tell that he is holding back because he does not want to risk hurting you. And then he lets you return to your friends. Oliver, who would you like to split off to talk to?
I would like to go seek out Huang Di.
Okay. You find Huang Di talking to Amaterasu, who looks like she's fuming She spots you and kind of gives an indignant sniff and turns on her heel and walks imperiously away. And Huangdi just sort of watches her go. He is a mild-faced, almost nondescript Chinese man in a very clean pressed suit that has a cut and adornments that are vaguely militaristic, but not so overt as to look like a uniform. And he sort of runs the tips of his fingers along a thin mustache on his upper lip before he spots you, and kind of turns to look at you. Ah, Mr. Brett.
As I approach, I would like to give a slight bow. Emperor.
Scion of Ogma. I was wondering when you would approach me. I did not think any of the others likely to do so.
Well, I believe that we had a shared interest in the practicality of this venture here today.
Perhaps.
I think there's a lot that can be gained for arguing on behalf of Stefan, and even with his past in mind, well, I'm sure you noticed that one of the people on that list that I mentioned was Sun Wukong, someone who's caused quite a lot of trouble in your pantheon, as I'm aware.
I'm aware. He looks... He sort of... When you bring it up, there's this moment where his body almost seems to settle into a more almost forcibly relaxed posture. I know that seems... It almost doesn't make any sense, but it's like he is forcing himself to settle into place. Continue.
Well, he is a troublemaker. That is very true, yet he's still kept around. I ask why, and I believe the answer is because he is useful, correct? He's very capable in what he's able to do and his fighting capacities and such.
He is, but I think it would be unwise to argue that a figure like Sun Wukong is on a similar par to someone like Stefan Vargr.
I'm not saying that he is, I'm just saying that there are many pieces that follow a similar pattern between the two. Sun Wukong did a lot of things that eventually warranted him a fairly lofty punishment, and he went on a journey to atone for it. I think something could be similarly arranged for Stefan, but the point of the matter is they are both useful. Stefan has a lot of knowledge about the enemy. He can provide said knowledge, not just in how these Scions are being hunted down before they even have their visitations, but also just the way they operate, how they go about their business. Things of that nature can be very helpful in terms of tactics, how to defend against them, and how to even fight against them. But also in mind the point I made previously about how if he were to be proven a viable resource, then other Scions could also be sought out that haven't been visited by Loki, as there seems to be a opening for such, as he's not around to visit them. I know you have a lot of interest in your own pantheon, especially in China as of now, so imagine what you could do if these unclaimed Scions of Loki could be claimed by your own pantheon, how they could help your efforts, as well as any of the other pantheons.
See, you make an interesting argument. I have a question, a curiosity, if you will.
Of course.
You mention Sun Wukong's journey, and I don't remember if it was you or one of your companions mentioned performing deeds as penance.
I believe that was both myself and Coda.
I find it difficult to believe that any of the gods would trust Mr. Vargr to go on such journeys and perform such labors, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
However, in many old traditions, there is the opportunity for people to name champions when accused, and for those champions to stand for them. Would you and your friends potentially be willing to perform labors in Mr. Vargr's stead?
Provided what is expected of us is reasonable and accomplishable, I believe we could as well. But I also think it is in his best interest to serve his own labors, at least alongside us, or other lesser ones, so that he can truly prove his merits. As I apologize for continuing to use him as an example, in Sun Wukong's journey, he was not alone. He was accompanied by other individuals who kept him in check, we could say.
Yes, I know the stories of my own pantheon, Mr. Bright. You do not have to recount them to me. I am not one of your students.
I apologize. I just wish to make the points. I should have known that you know your own pantheon, as you just put it.
Very well. I will take this under consideration. I am surprised, however, at how passionately your little group argued such a thing when not more than a few days ago, a Scion belonging to my pantheon, who willingly put her life and home on the line for you on multiple occasions, as I understand it, nearly died to Mr. Vargr's hand. Seems an odd way to return that favor. But suppose you will have to pay that debt with her when the time comes. I will take your words under advisement, Mr. Bright. Good day.
Thank you for your time, and I will bow once again.
And he sort of nods a little bit and watches you with a firm gaze, and without saying a word or making a gesture or a motion, you know that you have been dismissed.
I will turn away, my hands clasped behind my back and shoulders back, stood upright, walk away.
Hey, Kris. Anyone you want to speak to?
Athena.
All right. You are led by one of the dwarves out of the core room and out to a garden in the back. There are lights, but they are dimmed. You can see fireflies floating around, and Athena is sitting on a bench. There is an owl nearby. Looks like a screech owl of some sort. She is curvy. Honey of hair, fair of skin, gorgeous. But dressed in a very traditional cut outfit, like a toga, but not made of old-fashioned clothing. She has taken the old ways but updated them for modern sensibilities and comfort. And she is staring intently at what looks to be a olive tree nearby, planted off to one side of the garden. She looks very thoughtful. However, her eyes glance up at you, and you realize that they are silvery gray with the barest tinge of blue. Ah, Kris Strom. I was wondering when I would finally get to meet you in person.
The honor is mine, ma'am.
Come and sit. I'm sure you have much you want to discuss with me. And there is much I would like to discuss with you.
I will sit down next to her.
I should begin by saying, welcome to the family.
Thank you.
We are a complicated bunch, but we are happy to have you.
And I'm grateful for the opportunity as well.
I have not always understood Artemis's decisions in her choices of children, and her choices to pass up some opportunities to gather more children to her purposes, but having heard stories of your exploits, I understand why she likes you.
Forgive me, I kind of thought after my last discourse with her that she just considered me a wayward child that needs to be, schooled.
Well, perhaps she does. I haven't spoken to her since what I assume was your last discourse. She and I spoke yesterday.
And to be honest, perhaps I am a wayward child that needs to be schooled. Everything is very new to me, so I'm still learning.
Yes. Yes, you are all quite young, and that shows in your arguments, but it also, while it is a detriment in some ways, it is also a strength. The young see the world in different ways and see the world with more sense of possibility than the rest of us do.
Yes,
We
I
are-
understand.
We are old, Mr. Strom, and set in our ways. But we are not here to talk about the vagaries of youth versus age. What did you want to talk about?
I wanted to approach you because I believe the words that I've got would mean more to you. You are, as well as being the goddess of war, you're a very big patron of the arts, and I am a singer and a musician myself, and, you know, I feel that in some ways, some kind of kinship that I could see with you because of that. But I wanted to speak to you really because one of the things that is attributed to you and to indeed the city named after you, Athens, it's the birthplace of democracy. And the Greek people are widely believed to have come up with the whole process of democracy. And your wisdom and judgment in democratic ways is what caused that. So I believe that approaching you with an honest level series of statements would be most beneficial. I believe you could see the wisdom in it, and again, I can't lie, so I'm not even gonna bother trying. What I believe about Stefan is that he awoke, as it were, to his new world, and he did not have anybody to guide him because his father was AWOL, absent. And so he fell in with the first set of people who picked him up. And he acted with aggression as a response to the aggression he received from the Aesir, who were trying to hunt down all the children of Loki due to what they believed was their part in the forthcoming Ragnarok. And I think that in any other time, in any other place, if he had just had the one person who got to him first, who could channel the aggression that he has into more beneficial ways, like, I don't know, you, the goddess of war, or the other gods that kind of have that as a purview. I think that back then, he would have been a useful asset, and we would not even be having this conversation. But due to the luck of the draw, the way that he was forsaken by the Aesir and forsaken by his father at the very, very beginning, that is what put him down that path of wrong. I do believe that he regrets his actions, and he can't lie here. You ask him a question, he's got to tell you the truth. So, and I know that even without that, you will be able to see whether he's lying anyway. I'm sure all the gods can. You can tell whether someone is speaking passionately from the heart and believe what they say, or whether they're just bullshitting you. And if he is really open to make that change, if he is really looking to ways to behave that are not these fight instincts, this aggression, he has a lot of information that would be really, really useful to a lot of people, especially our Pantheon. He would be very useful. And I think that whilst we might not be able to stop Ragnarok, we all know it's going to happen at some point, at least the information he's got might help slow it down for a while. And if it can be shown that all the while that Loki is absent, we can pick up his children and we can turn them into productive members of our society without having to turn them into outcasts, then we would get a lot of extra foot soldiers in this war that's going to come very, very soon. But that starts here. And that starts with you guys. That starts with you acknowledging that one person can be redeemed. And if we can redeem him, we can catch the others before they've even had the chance to be potentially irredeemable.
I can see all of your points. And Artemis schooled you well. You're right. I've never been in approval of aggression being the first option to solve a problem. And she sort of glances around for a moment and spots a little black bird nearby, and makes a little whistling noise with her lips. And that screech owl that's perched in the tree soars off towards that bird and chases it away. And between you and I've never particularly approved of the way the Aesir handle the children of Loki. It seems a waste of divine blood, whether that blood belongs to a god believed to be the source of the end of the world or not. I do take issue with one thing you said, however.
Yes, ma'am.
It doesn't start with us. It started with you. You all have had the opportunity, from what I can tell, several times over to finish Mr. Vargr. To put him and all of us out of the misery of having to deal with this. But you didn't. And while I don't always understand or agree, I cannot help but note the passion for which you all argue this, and the forward thinking that has gone into it. And for what it's worth, your commentary on the democratic nature of my city, she kind of smiles a little bit. Where do you think the idea of it having to be a popular vote came from? Everyone was arguing for unanimity, and that was never going to happen.
I'll smile and nod.
She may have given me a tip-off that this was coming, and I may have greased a few palms. We'll put it that way.
Ma'am, not only you the goddess of war, but you're the goddess of wisdom too, I will say with a genuine smile. But with regards to the goddess of war, if we do have a war in our future, having people like Stefan on our side is gonna help.
He has proven himself to be tactically gifted. And he knows a lot of information that would be very valuable that could be lost without him here. Not to mention, a little birdie of mine, and she kind of gestures at the screech owl, did tip me off that his, I suppose now, former companion is now in charge of the wolves and is wreaking absolute havoc.
Yeah.
Someone who knows this person would be useful. Well,
Yes, it would. And if we killed him, we would lose that knowledge, whereas if we kept him around, we could keep tapping it.
indeed. You've given me much to think about, Mr. Strom, but I think it's safe to say that you have my vote.
My thanks to you.
I appreciate how respectful you've been.
I appreciate
how-
your time.
And how wise in your approach to all of this. You should return to your companions. I have some people I need to speak to.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Of course.
Stand up and kind of bow my head. Kris doesn't know really how to bow, so it's probably quite awkward, but he does the best that he can, sort of like bow and then head off.
She gives you a very warm smile. And as you were about to turn to leave, she says, Kris?
I'll turn back. Yes, ma'am.
Do ask Artemis to teach you how to bow properly. I appreciate the attempt, but school may need to be back in session soon.
He genuinely laughs at that. Yes, ma'am, I certainly will.
And she will nod and let you go. All right, Coda. Who did you want to speak to?
Raw.
Excellent. Okay. You kind of look towards your mother, who very subtly indicates a door, and head through that door. And as you walk into the room, you find Ra speaking with... Make sure I've got the name right. A young man, of obviously like... he looks almost Native American, but also like South American. He's got a kind of mottled appearance as far as his exact origins. But you can tell at least that he is probably Aztec based on the tattoos that he has. And they are having a conversation, and Ra and this man are talking in a... I don't want to say heated, but intense manner with a woman who is of indeterminate origin. Like, you can't tell where she's from. She's beautiful, she's curvy, she's got long dark hair, but it is impossible to tell what part of the world she comes from. And they're talking, and Ra is making the argument, it's just doesn't make sense. There's no way he survived as long as he did for the wolves to find him and spare him unless he had help. Even if he doesn't know it, there had to be some sort of intervention on the part of another pantheon or agents of fate. It doesn't make sense. And some of us have suffered far more than others. Some of our pantheons have suffered catastrophic casualties beyond just the Aesir. I am willing to chalk most of their losses up to the accused's sense of betrayal. But some of us have suffered losses that don't bear counting, that had nothing to do with what happened to him, that have nothing to do with the wolves. So who serves, or who stands to profit the most from hurting the Aesir? And the Tuatha, because they have taken significant numbers of theirs as well. And there's a moment where all three of them are kind of jockeying and going over this list and Some of them are insisting none of the pantheons would do this. Some of them are insisting, oh, but this one pantheon, they never quite let go of that war that happened in their country, and the Norse perpetuated that, and there's a lot of back and forth before anyone notices you. And when she does, or when they do, it's because the woman who is among them kind of looks over and spots you and sort of puts a hand out on Ra's arm and says, I believe we have a visitor. And Ra turns, and he is in a very clean white linen suit with a gold tie, gold cufflinks. He is tall, imposing, handsome, but not shining in the way that some gods and goddesses tend to be. He is classically handsome. Very stiff posture. Very placid, hard to read face. Ah, Miss Massaquoi. Your mother has spoken of you to me.
Hopefully it's all good. Or decent.
If it were all good, I would assume that she was lying and did not like you very much.
That's true. May I take a moment of your time?
Of course. And he will kind of turn and nod to the others, who sort of nod back and then step away to speak to you. What can I do for you, Miss Massaquoi?
Well, I guess in this moment, well, not I guess, I would like to know what's your feeling on this case so far.
I'm sure you would. But I have not made a decision yet.
What exactly is making it difficult for you to make an exact decision? Maybe I can help. The least I can do is help.
I am not clear on a number of things. I would like to start with curiosity. Your mother and I are close. She is, one could say, my right hand in many things, and a frequent sounding board when things must be discussed. Her own gifts for fate and prophecy have saved our people a good number of times over many more years than some of these other gods have even existed. And he'll lean in and make no mistake, Miss Massaquoi. I was old in the desert before Odin was a thought in the first human mind.
I've learned that from my mother.
Good. My understanding from your mother is that you have taken something of a shine to a young woman from the celestial bureaucracy.
Yes, she's seemed to find a way into my mostly locked heart, and she's wedged her way there.
And this same young woman nearly died in a battle with Mr. Vargr.
Yes.
And it was only the quick thinking of her companion, a member of the Yazada, I believe, that saved her life.
Yes.
And yet you are willing to forgive him?
Yes. However, why. It took me a moment to, if I can speak plainly, it took me a moment to think about that too and realize where I stood there. Why would I forgive this person who almost took the one person who's seen me as me? And something that's important to me, and I am learning as I talk to and meet more people that I can trust, is I can forgive someone, but I just have to remember I do not forget what he has done. So I will stand here and plead for his case. I will forgive him. I will not forget what he has done, which is why and I also stand on the case in the belief that while we forgive him and give him this second chance, he is still to be punished in a way. And that's why I'm stand here. Because while, yes, he did almost kill my beloved, I believe that so many more can be saved with his knowledge, with his abilities, with possibly his family's abilities. I feel like more can be done. With his one life, we can save so many more and avoid people having to feel the feelings I did, or sit there and watch your loved one heal piece by piece. And yeah. So this is why, as much as I, in the moment, felt I could never forgive someone who's done something like this, I have realized it is also good for me to realize the benefits of what can happen what is the benefits of keeping him alive. So I will forgive him. I will not forget what he's done, but I will move forward and make a better future so many others don't have to deal with that.
I find it interesting that you are showing him more grace than he showed any of the Pantheons, but least of all the Aesir.
Yep. Yeah.
And this is something that you are comfortable with.
I am. I am, because I do want to make sure he still gets a sentence that will make him redeem himself, make him pay for what he has done. So I'm not going to sit here and say he should be able to walk free without any kind of punishment. No, he should be punished. That is the only way the scales can be balanced. I don't think he should die, because what is one life for the many? That feels unfair.
And will you and your companions be willing to take responsibility for his behavior going forward? You are asking a great deal of the gods, but offering very little yourselves in return. Are you willing to step up and be responsible for Mr. Vargr's behavior?
I will. I will.
I will make you a deal, Miss Massaquoi.
Yes.
You will have my vote under one condition. You will know and bear Stefan Vargr's true name. It will be yours to protect as well as yours to use in the event that he fails to uphold the rules set before him for the remainder of his days.
Okay. My goal, and one of my many goals, is to be in a position where I can accept, where I can take care of the strays, those left to the wayside. And if this is my first step towards being a person that can accept, guide, and protect the strays, I will take it. This will be part of my legend.
He gives a little nod. Very well. You will likely need to meet Isis to understand what it means to hold a true name, but
Yes.
do we have an agreement?
We sure do. I mean, yes, sir.
That's better. And he sort of holds out a hand. I do
Sure.
not often or lightly touch other people, but in order to seal an agreement of this nature, I believe a handshake is the very least of the customs that should be upheld.
Mm-hmm. She'll offer her hand.
He will shake it. And you don't see it happen, but Coda, you feel the weight of something heavy and serious settle on you. It's not physical, but it's like a weight on your soul. You've just agreed to something much bigger than you. And he turns and walks away. Okay. Is there anybody else that anyone wants to speak to before Stefan talks to Frigg? I know that that's on the list.
No.
Okay. If there are other scenes that people or other conversations that people would like to have but maybe don't want to do scenes, I am willing to allow you to roll to see how well you argue your points, so that we're not here all night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that with Lug then, because I just didn't want to take up more time with another conversation.
Yeah, I also wanted to go to Lou as well.
Okay.
We'll tag team them.
Oh boy. Okay. Tell me what you don't have to give me a full, role played out argument, but give me your bullet points of what you want to say, Lou, so that I can determine what your difficulty is, and then we'll roll.
For me, it would be more in treating the Celtic Gaius and how out of everyone, he's the one that values and respects it the most, and that he can see the merit in having Stefan follow one in order to make him a useful member of the Pantheons. As I believe Coda wanted to entreat more of his emotional side.
Mm-hmm. Coda was going to talk more about the experiences of being a Scion and what could possibly happen if you don't have that initial care, that initial moment with your parents, as well as the ability to change fate, how fates have been able, or how Scions have the ability to change fate as he did. And this is a good opportunity for us to change fate to better the world.
Hey, okay. I would like you both to roll me. Well, obviously persuasion. And I guess charisma makes the most sense. If you have a virtue you would like to apply, you absolutely can.
Is persuasion a skill?
It may not be. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I run a lot of systems.
Presence?
Presence. Thank you. Yes. Presence.
Lovely. Whew.
My bad, guys.
I was like, I have nothing in persuasion.
I am but one storyteller running many, many systems.
Persuasion.
7 successes.
Goodness. 7 and
I rolled 3 10s.
Coda?
Coming. 6. 2, 4, 5 successes.
7 and 5. Very well done, guys. Okay. All right. He agrees to vote your way.
Nice.
There will be stipulations. He makes that very clear, but he does not say exactly. He doesn't say exactly what his stipulations are, only that he will present them to the rest of the council.
Thank you.
I'll also
Okay.
thank him and then back away.
Stefan,
Yes.
Dolgrom leads you into a room that the first thing you notice is that this room is very big and should feel very empty and lonely, just because there is only one other person in it. The next thing that hits you is that despite how big this room is and how empty it should feel, the one woman in this room somehow takes up the whole space. She is larger than life now that she's not holding herself back as much. She is pacing, and she is... The best description I can give is that she looks like a mother bear who is worried about her cubs. Like she is constantly on the verge of great violence, but holding herself back because she is waiting for the right moment. And when she sees you, she comes up short. And all at once, all of that roiling anger and tension gets locked out. And she is back to being this imperious, very royal, regal, queen-like figure before you. Mr. Vargr.
Greetings, Mrs. Frigg. I apologize for catching you at a seeming time for you to vent your frustration. However, there is something I would like to discuss with you.
Mm-hmm. Continue.
I have targeted your pantheon mainly in my rage and feelings of anger. However, I did not consider my actions and how they would affect others. Your rage, if I may make an assumption, is not due to the fact that I am a child of Loki. You are the goddess of motherhood, and I have, in my time, taken quite a few children.
Yes.
I have come to apologize for that fact.
Before you continue your apology, may I ask you a question?
Of course.
Did you even bother to learn their names?
I did not.
Then this apology had better be the most heartfelt, poetic thing any mortal has ever uttered in my presence.
I will not lie to you. Frig. I did not learn their names as I was afraid to care. The Aesir were my enemy, and I wanted it to stay that way. I sincerely hoped to try and bring down your pantheon. However, I realized in my plea for survival and desperate clinging to, well, the war, I guess, I had hurt many more civilians than I did soldiers. My truth is, I would rather not be doing that, but I cannot take it back. I've come here fully prepared to die. However, as you understand, I am prepared to die for my family. And thus, even if this court rules against me, I would ask you to please look after the unclaimed children. They don't have a place to go.
You ask much.
I do. And I would give you everything I have for it. However little that is worth now.
Loki is not a relation of mine, but he is a member of my pantheon, and in a perhaps undesirable way that makes him family. And I struggle to parse how you can speak so highly of family while simultaneously slaughtering your family's children. But regardless of the outcome of this vote, I will speak with the other Aesir in an attempt to temper quick decision-making and perhaps too quick action against would-be children of Loki in an attempt to find them better places beyond his reach.
That is all I can ask of you.
I have a question for you, Mr. Vargr. It is clear that you have not been given a visitation. Your father has not presented you with gifts. This I can accept. Do you, in any way, shape, or form, believe that you have ever met Loki Lysmith?
I do not. This is a gift I have been given when my divine heritage was formed. I can tell those who are related to me. And the only direct relations I have met have been Kris and 2 others, of which the other 2 have died.
Regardless of the outcome, in exchange for my agreement to speak in favor of mercy for Loki's children, I would ask that you provide the names of these others who have died so that we can keep track.
Of course. One of their names is inscribed onto the belt I have given you.
Good. I will think on your apology, Mr. Vargr. You will have whether or not I accept it when your sentence is passed.
You have already given me more than I deserve.
Yes, I have. You should return to your companions.
He will nod and head back.
Okay. You all are brought back to that core room, and after some time, during which you are provided with food and drink because it takes hours, there's a moment where you're not even sure they're going to come back to you today. And perhaps there is a niggling in the back of your mind that makes you think, maybe they're going to make us wait days. Maybe they're going to let us stew in this and get all worked up and anxiety-ridden before they finally show themselves. They all file back into the room hours later. It is late. It is after midnight. They do not look tired at all. Some of them look more bored than they did. Some of them look angry. A few of them are glancing at each other in manners that suggest that they are not accustomed to spending this amount of time around people not of their pantheon, and it's not going well. But they all sit. Frigg once again at the place of honor in the middle. And she nods stiffly to Dolgrom.
Gods and goddesses of the Council of Judges, what say you as to the prisoner Stefan Vargr's sentence? Autumn Ray.
I
Athena. Frigg.
Nay.
Quetzalcoatl.
Nay.
Amaterasu.
Nay.
Legba.
I.
Lu.
I.
Huangdi.
Nay.
Ganesha.
And here there's a pause. Ganesha looks over towards Sarah, flips a coin into the air and catches it, and then puts it on the back of his hand, smiles a little bit, and says, I.
Anahita.
I.
And looking down at his sheet, he nods. The ayes have it in favor of mercy.
At this, there is a shift at the end of the table, the far right end, and a man stands up. He is tall, has kind of ruddy golden hair, and blue woad tattoos on his hands. And he sort of looks around. Stefan Vargr, you have been granted leniency, but we have not come to this decision without an agreement in place on how best to punish you that does not involve death. You will be subject to strict rules and a time of imprisonment instead. And your companions, who have argued so passionately for you, will be responsible in performing certain actions and taking certain responsibilities, and he glances at Coda at that before looking back at you, in order to help you earn eventual freedom. First and foremost, you will be bound by a life gauge by the Morgan herself. She has agreed to this and will perform it when all of this is over. This gauge will bind you in service against the Titans. Second, it has been agreed after some consideration, and he glances at Frigg and gives her a very respectful nod of her head. She does not look happy, but she nods back. You will be adopted by myself, and you will belong to the Tuatha De Danann going forward. Third, you will divulge what you know about the plans of the wolves and the Titan spawn that they are associated with, and any Titans beyond them. Anything that you have will belong to us. However long it takes you to spill all of that information. Further, for a time, your companions will be acting on your behalf, and there will be times you will be allowed to join them, though not often, and not for long periods without accompaniment to keep you honest. Your friends will be assigned labors, one labor by each pantheon that is not the Aesir. During the time that these labors are being performed, you will be held as a prisoner by the Aesir, who have agreed that you will not be killed in their stead. But you will be their prisoner. During that time, if there is a reason your companions have need to speak with you, or myself or the Morrigan have need to speak with you, we will be permitted access. The Aesir will determine what the nature of your imprisonment is. He will nod towards Frigg, who stands up. The Aesir will be placing you in Loki's cavern, but rather than suffering the exact fate of your father, which I believe would kill you despite your strength as a Scion, we will keep you bound in other ways that are less stressful on the body. Your father, and she will nod at Lou to make it clear that that is who she is talking about, will be allowed to visit with you when needs be. And if your companions or yourself can think of someone who would stand with you to help you bear your punishment, you will be allowed such a kindness. And then she sits back down. And Lou nods again. This is the will of this council. We are adjourned.
And with that, Dolgrom picks up his maul and slams it into the council floor once.
The gods stand and without a word begin to file out, leaving you and Dolgrom and your parents behind.
I keep my posture completely the same up until they all leave. But the moment the last one's gone, I faint.
Holy shit. It worked.
Hold on. Oliver.
Oh, wait. I'm a trained doctor. Sorry. Or almost. For animals.
Did you just call me an animal?
Did we just did
Holy fucking
we
shit.
did we do
Yes.
that?
We
You
did.
did.
Oh my god.
And Sarah's gonna look over to Stefan. How do you feel?
I feel like a lot has happened today,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
much more still needs to happen.
Yeah. I made a deal for you.
Oh,
She's gonna go up to him. I don't know how tall he is, but she's gonna go up to him and like poke him in the chest and go, "So don't disappoint us, please. I want to see you do good in this world. You. This is your second chance."
Well, alright. I've been a disappointment for a while. I think I can change. Slightly.
You don't think you will change? Like that Yoda guy who talks backwards? You don't
Yoda.
try or whatever. You're just gonna do it. That's it. You are going to change. I promise you this.
Honestly, I think I would have had a better time talking to Odin himself. Frigg scared me.
With good reason.
Yeah.
Got news for you. Frigg scares all of us.
Is Oliver still on the floor?
I'm conscious, but I'm still on the floor, yes.
Oh, Coda will help him up.
Yeah, Sarah's gonna help him up.
Thank you.
I thought he
See
got
it.
up.
To
Get him
let
in
my
a
heart
chair.
settle.
Whew. Wow.
So,
Uh-huh. Yep.
yeah.
Someone got any whiskey?
Oh my god, yeah, I need a smoke.
I need
Yep.
a drink.
And a toxin.
Tyr
bottle.
steps forward and sets a half gallon on the table in front of him.
You mean
Thank you,
Vidar?
sir.
You're not Tyr.
Rats! Well,
Anyway,
and you know, it's just as well. With just one hand, Tyr might not be able to manage a handle.
That's fair.
thank you, sir. I will take up that
Yes.
big gallon and start slugging from it.
Whoa. Some for the rest.
Oh, there's plenty here, don't worry.
I guess drinks all around, but also, while I may not be the most respectful, thank you to the parents in the room for giving us your wise wisdom
Yeah.
We all
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I found some luck.
Good.
Your battle has only begun. Take this time to celebrate. Because it's going to get harder.
Yay.
Yeah. Can I
Sarah will
smoke in
nod.
here?
And never forget, and I will look at Kris very, very pointedly, that you all wanted this.
First steps.
On that note, I believe that that's where we are going to call it for the night and for the first season of Scion Apotheosis. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for those who have found time to be here every week, who have listened and supported, asked questions for our After Dawn recordings. Thank you all again. Love you so much. We will see you next Friday. Good night.
Bye.